I woke up choking on the feeling that someone else was breathing in my room, slow and steady, close enough that the air felt borrowed. The clock on my phone glowed 3:17 a.m., and before I could sit up, a voice said calmly from the chair beside my bed, "Don't scream. I'm just staying here for one night." I froze. Every nerve lit. She sat in the half-light like she belonged there, dark hair braided, eyes sharp and watchful, wearing a worn jacket dusted with rain. "An Apache woman," she said when I demanded to know who she was. Like that single word explained everything. The door was still locked. The window was still latched. My heart tried to claw its way out of my chest. I reached for my phone and she shook her head once. Not threatening, just certain. "If you call anyone, they won't help you," she said. "And you'll make it." Worse, the certainty in her voice was more frightening than a shout. I asked how she got in. She said, "The same way the sound did." I laughed. A cracked sound, because nothing she said made sense. She looked past me to the wall where my grandfather's old photograph hung. The one I never talked about. The one with the desert behind him and a look in his eyes that never softened. "He should have buried it deeper," she added, and my laugh died. She told me her name was Lena, then corrected herself. Saying names changed depending on who was listening. She said she wasn't here for me exactly, but I was in the way of something that had been circling my family for a long time. I told her to leave. She said she would by sunrise. "One night," she repeated, as if it were a rule she was bound to. She asked me if I'd heard the knocking last week. 3 slow taps at 2:11 a.m. I'd told myself it was pipes. She nodded like she'd expected that answer, and pulled a small cloth bundle from her pocket, setting it on the table without opening it. The air in the room felt heavier the longer she stayed. I noticed details I shouldn't have, like the faint scar at her wrist, the way she kept her boots on, as if ready to run. When I asked what the bundle was, she said, "A reminder." Then the lights flickered. The knocking came again. Not on the door, not on the window, but inside the walls, as if the house itself had learned to signal. Lena stood listening with her head tilted, and for the first time she looked tired. "It followed the photograph," she said. "Objects remember when people won't," I wanted to argue, to tell her this was insane, but the knocking moved closer, climbing toward the ceiling above my bed. She made me sit in the center of the room and told me not to move, no matter what I heard. From the bundle she took a small stone, smooth as water, and placed it in my palm. It was warm. "If it speaks with his voice, don't answer," she said. The knocking stopped. Silence pressed in, thick enough to hurt. Then my grandfather's voice drifted down, calling my childhood nickname, gentle and coaxing. Tears burned my eyes. I looked at Lena, and she was pale now, jaw clenched, eyes never leaving the ceiling. "It lies," she whispered. "It always lies." The ceiling creaked. A shadow bled across it, wrong in its angles, like a memory that had learned how to walk. The voice begged, then threatened, then laughed, cycling through emotions too fast to be human. I clutched the stone until my fingers ached. Lena spoke then, not loudly, not in anger, but with the finality of someone closing a door that had been left open too long. The shadow recoiled, folding in on itself, drawn toward the photograph on the wall. With a sudden snap, the glass cracked and the room went still. Sunlight leaked through the curtains like a promise. Lena sagged into the chair, exhausted. "It's done," she said, and for the first time I believed her. I asked, "Why me?" She shrugged. "You kept the picture," she said. "And you listened when the house spoke." She stood, walked to the door, and unlocked it from the inside. Before leaving, she turned back. "Bury the photograph," she said. Deep. Then she was gone, boots quiet on the stairs, as if she'd never been there at all. I buried the photograph that morning, hands shaking, dirt under my nails. The house has been quiet since. But sometimes, just before dawn, I wake up to the feeling that someone is checking the room, making sure the night held. And I remember her words, calm and certain, and I know some promises are kept by staying only one night.